Okay, we are live.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. The team knows, and we are all ready to. We have an exciting episode coming up for everyone, so I will turn it over to Travis to get us started.
Yep, cool. Um, so let me get this here. Yep, so thank you everyone for joining and welcome back to the Think Tank Live podcast. At Think, we streamline democracy so you can vote for you. Every week, we break down what's happening in politics using our digital politics lens, up versus down instead of left versus right. Up means power first, down means people first. It's not left, not right, just representation. Digital politics helps all of us see the real patterns behind shutdowns, donor deals, and the stories that never get explained clearly. It's all about the concentration of power versus true representation. Think of FiNC as a civic utility company. We're plugging citizens, trusted journalists, and underdog candidates into one coordination hub so together we can use today's rules differently and start building digital democracy, which is the future home for America's politics. Our goal is better choices, better outcomes, and one fair system where every candidate is seen and every citizen is heard. If you want to help shape what comes next, join our newsletter to get notified when the Digital Politics Hub goes live. It's going to be in the first week of January. That's where you'll be able to amplify people first efforts, plug in voices you trust, and help shape the future of politics. So you can do it at our website, futureis.org/join goes directly to it. Um, so before we dive in, tap the heart, give likes, share, follow, all that good stuff. It really does help us out, gets our message out further. So we appreciate that. All right, let's plug in. So we're gonna go. So today we're gonna go over the blueprint graphic, right, Liz? You're on mute. Okay.
Sorry, everyone. Yeah, so this blueprint graphic, guys, we have done a lot of putting our foreheads together internally. We know that the mission and the scope of what FiNC is doing is so broad and encompasses so much, and it can be hard to navigate that. So we have put together this very sleek, very concise, and very user friendly graphic for you guys that Travis and myself will go into that explains our mission, how we are pacing ourselves to accomplish that mission, and how you guys can start plugging in and start building the democracy that is about representation, accountability, and transparency. So let's dive right into that.
Cool. Yeah, let's get cooking here. Okay, we're gonna share it here. There we go. Okay. So there's three sections of this that we'll go over slowly through this episode. As Liz said, there's as people that have been following know, we have a very intricate mission, a lot of details. We're literally looking to change democracy at its core. So obviously, there's a lot of pieces to it. But we've been really ironing out the language and like the most concise way to articulate it to all of you. Especially with the coming of this digital politics hub. We're moving into a major new milestone, a new stage of the coordination stage in January with this new hub launching. So the first part of it is kind of the most important, and it's the alignment part. So this is like the alignment stage. This is really what we've been working on, me especially for like the last 3 years, growing this mission. Digital politics is digital politics is the lens, like a new way to see politics, where digital democracy is the technology and what's going to be built in terms of tech. And there's a lot of different or several different organizations that are trying to build something like a digital democracy, but they're all about just the tech side of things, where we are really like our big focus is that it needs to be more than that. We're the people side. We have shared language that works across different political beliefs. I've been doing a lot of guesting on other podcasts lately, and we have people from anarchists, socialists, regular Democrats, regular Republicans, even some MAGA. All different people across the spectrum are falling in love with this mission right now. So the language and the alignment is so important to really prove that we can use shared language and really talk about a common goal that doesn't matter where you stand politically. It fits anyone's political beliefs. Literally, the only reason you wouldn't want it is if you're somebody that literally has millions of dollars to be able to buy the elections yourself. And if you're not one of those people and you're just an average American, you probably want to be more represented than you are today. And that's what this is all about. So diving into this graphic, so stage one is about alignment. So again, that's like really to coordinate. So it's really that learning how power really works and how to take your share back. It's about so digital politics helps citizens across beliefs unite under one goal, and that's to build a people-first democracy, a more direct democracy. And so with this alignment, you starts with the left here. Oh, you want to say something, Liz?
I do, and if this is your first time hearing about FiNC and our mission, or your thousandth time, uh, what Travis is explaining here, just a little contextualization. Uh, the ability to be represented in today's politics is heavily rigged and influenced by heavy pressure from big money, the I forget the word, but there's people pulling the strings of representation and the ability for merit to win over money that is very behind the scenes, very hard to find. And we are saying, well, gosh, if the game of politics is so rigged, let's not play that game anymore. So what FiNC is building, and what this graphic is going to represent, is a new system that incorporates everyone who is harmed by big money in politics, from the average Joe like myself, who is just a regular voter, to quality politicians who are pushed out of the game because of big money, as well as reform efforts who are trying very hard to um, change legislation. And we're saying, well, gosh, you can't change legislation, you can't change the game. So what can we do today? And that is what we're talking about. The people first efforts that, like Travis said, anywhere from a regular Republican to a regular Democrat to third party to socialists, libertarians, even MAGA people, we have expressed this mission to the full spectrum of politicians. And gosh, like Travis said, if you're not one of the grimy politicians or people in power who benefits from lack of representation, this mission is for you. And so I just wanted to contextualize that a bit, that is what we are building, and that is what we are talking about today. I'll pass it back to Travis.
Cool. Yeah, so well said. Yeah, the word I think you were missing was gatekeeping. So both parties are doing gatekeeping, which basically means those at the very top, you're supposed to run a full primary where the voters choose the candidate that they like, and they still they have to make it seem like they're doing that, and it's not like it's like impossible to win if they're not their pick, but basically they know who they want to win before you even know who's going to be on the ballot in the primary, and they shove that candidate through. They give them more money than the other people, and any way that they could stack the cards towards that candidate, they do, rather than saying, hey America, hey Democrats, hey Republicans, here's the primary. What you are the party, what candidate do you want to be running in the general election? That's what it's supposed to be, that's how they pretend it to be, but it's not. And that's our biggest gripe. So it's like that, and then money in politics as a whole, as a thing. And part of it, I just realized, like, before we get into the full graphics. So I mean, this is everything on the left part of this graphic is about the problem itself, and so we're addressing that as we speak here. But even like, to make this relevant today. So we're about to enter another election cycle, and candidates are emerging very quietly. It's only the main establishment picks that the Democrat establishment, Republican establishment wants. Those are the voices that you're hearing. But there's also a lot of great candidates that want change and want to actually represent you, but they don't get as nearly as loud as a voice as those other candidates. So no one really even knows about those candidates because the media doesn't give them attention, the party doesn't give them attention. So it's up to their own grassroots device or grassroots capabilities to be heard. And that's part of the biggest problem that we have right now with democracy, is that it's not really a democracy, because those that are already in power get to choose who actually has a voice. So yes, you get to vote for who you want, but like, you're not going to vote for that one that didn't have a voice. And then even if you did, they're just, so much is stacked against them that they're just not going to be a viable candidate. But not because people didn't want them, it's because the establishment didn't want them. And so these are part of the distinctions that we want to show. And like, poll after poll shows that trust in government all-time low, trust in media all-time low. People feel democracy is crumbling. It's not about one candidate or one party. It's the system itself is crumbling. It's getting bought out. It's getting controlled by a concentration of power. These are the things that we're trying to overcome. And so again, this is part of that language that we're saying, like, it doesn't matter. You're listening. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, whatever. You probably agree with us. Like, this is stuff that poll after poll shows, like 85% or more Americans agree with these issues that we're talking about. And you might not know the ins and outs of it, and that's part of why we're here to help you. But it doesn't matter where your political lens is, where your belief is. This is a problem. You want to be represented. You're not feeling represented enough, and that is the problem, and that is not democracy. So that's such a key thing. It's like, this is what the problem is that we're trying to solve here, and like, so that's important before you even go into building upgrading democracy. So here it's like, it's the problem side of digital politics is spotting these rigged patterns. There's decade-long stalemates, limited solutions. Like, we've been talking about the same policies for decades, 30, 40, 50 years, the same issues, and it just goes back and forth, back and forth. And meanwhile, like, AI and automation is a huge threat, and like there's all the cryptocurrency, there's like all these new threats coming, and yet we're battling like, the things that have been going on for decades, like, basic healthcare and like reproductive rights and things like that, where like we need to move forward. We can't just stay in this circle. So this is about those rigged patterns is a big piece to this. Go ahead, Liz, before I continue.
Yeah, so a great example of the habitual nature of politicians just not addressing things that people want addressed. Whether or not you agree with the fight for $15 for minimum wage, that discussion has been in the hands of Congress for so long. That's no longer the desired outcome. Inflation has worked faster than the pens of Congress. So even something that a good majority of people, whether or not you personally agree with it, wants the $15 minimum wage changed, that has been sitting at the desks of Congress for longer than it's even a relevant conversation. So just one example of the real lived, longevity of these same conversations, but there's multitude of things. Healthcare is a big one, immigration. Those things have changed in the real world, but what Congress actually identifies is decades old. But back to you, Travis.
Yeah. So that, again, like you said, like, maybe you're not going to agree with everything, but like, I mean, especially on the Democrat side, they want 15 or above. So why weren't the Democrats trying to do that when they were in office? none of us are getting what we want. We're promised the world by our candidates, and then once they're elected, you don't see it yet, and then they blame the other side. Oh, we couldn't get the votes. Like, sometimes that's true, but it's really because the system is collapsing, and there's tons of policies where like literally 70-80% of Americans want the same thing, and yet Congress won't even pretend to talk about that kind of an issue. So that's just ridiculous. So moving along here, so that's part of the problems. Money and media spin is also keeping power in power. We always talk about this, that about 6 companies own about 90% of the TV media that you watch on TV, like the news media. So it's only a handful of perspectives, and it's guarded. It's a limited perspective by those that have millions of dollars, but even the millionaires that are the anchors on the show are answering to somebody even higher up than them. And like, there's just not enough diversity of perspectives. They're not going to allow somebody that can threaten the status quo. Sometimes they'll give a voice like that here and there just because they need to get the followers up. But they'll also at the same time try to discredit them in subtle ways. And overall, like, most America knows that the media is a big manipulator of things. So that's the problem. Money. And then those trying to do reforms, they're trying their best. There's protests and different reform pushes on all sides, and it's still the system snaps back. And it's maybe at one point it was more effective in the past, but now that money is more influential than ever before, it just gets worse and worse. Elections cost more and more every year. A simple protest isn't doing as much as it used to. And so everyone's feeling it. Eroding economy, trust in government, and faith in both parties are falling down. So anyway, so that's the problem side of the alignment piece. So that's important to just understand that, like, whatever side you're on, you're probably going, yeah, that all makes sense. That I could see those things being a problem. The difference is you might blame the other party and might think your party is more of the friend. And maybe there's a lesser of two evils. It's not going to be productive to flesh that out. No one, America's not going to agree on who's worse, but that doesn't matter. The point is they're both bad, and we're holding our nose at the poll, and that's got to stop. Like, we're the wealthiest country, the most successful country in the world. Why do we have to hold our nose and have such shitty candidates? We should be proud and happy. We're freaking America. So that's the problem side of it. Good.
Yeah, Travis. So Travis brings up a great point. And I whether you're a Democrat, Republican, third party voter, independent voter, or gosh, even a non-voter, I feel it's a very widespread sentiment. Whenever we go to the polls, it's always, oh gosh, I guess I have to vote for this guy because the other guy's worse, right? And that's what Travis was talking about, the holding our nose, almost closing your eyes when you vote for someone, because you don't bring that passion that, wow, this person, that's who I want, that's who I love, right? So who you're presented with when you go to the polls, it's a little too late. Those people have been put there by the powers that be. But I wanted to interject and say, democracy is such a globally cherished system. And it is cherished even more so, I would say, in a nation as unique as the United States. But gosh, if it's such a beloved system, why after election after election after election are we always so disappointed in how it's run? Isn't there a better way? Isn't there a way where, regardless of our political differences based on party, isn't there a better way to be represented, hold the politicians accountable, and have effective elections that, even if it is a Democrat versus a Republican, don't we want people who answer to us, the voters, and not to big donors or big tech? And so that is what we're talking about. We all love democracy, but democracy has been corroded by big money and all of these different systemic issues. And that is what we're talking about. How do we stop playing by these rules that are already so rigged against us and start building something that actually brings our love for democracy back.
Yeah. So let's keep going here where you have to speed up a little bit. So the rest of digital politics is really about treating like there's three main pieces. One is that problem that we just discussed, and we call it the rigged patterns of America or democracy. The other one is like really looking at democracy as a system we could redesign. Again, we've been talking to thousands of citizens across the board. Now I've been a lot of podcasts, Republican podcasts, Democrat, all sorts of ones, and it's been proven time and time again that if we talk about the democracy itself, we don't fight like almost at all. Like, yes, when we go under specific policies, what do we do about healthcare, climate change, immigration, like, border security? Yes, those things are still heavily divided, but what we're talking about, like, is the system itself, how we choose our candidates, how we're being represented, the lack of accountability in government right now. People could promise the world to you, deliver nothing, and now not even the media calls them out. It used to be at one point the journalists would call them out. Now independent media calls them out, and that's one of the pieces that we're trying to amplify. But the mainstream media does not call out their own party. They'll call out the other party if they're going to take a partisan side, but they're not going to call out their own parties, or the system as a whole. So we really look at this as like democracy is an infrastructure, a system, an ecosystem that we can actually evolve with today's day of the digital age. That is not, there's no partisan sides to that conversation, and most people would agree, like accountability, yes. Money out of politics, yes. Giving every candidate a fair shot so the American people are the ones that decide, yeah, of course. So it really is a way to bridge these divides and heal some of the division in the country. And we deeply feel that if we fix a lot of these structural issues at the core, the other issues will slowly work themselves out. And it won't happen overnight, but it'll work itself out. The biggest problem right now is just the system is broken. They keep us distracted. They keep us pinned against each other, blaming each other. So if we like fix that core issue, actually have people that are authentic and actually want to represent you in your district, it'll start working itself out. So that, and then the last part of the digital politics is about up and down politics, which we talk about a lot in this podcast. And so in short, so up-serving candidates are the ones, they serve big donors, money, more power. They look above them, those that have more power than them, and then basically are slaves to them to lift their career, their position up into higher power. Whereas a down-serving candidate is like those grassroots candidates. So they actually turn to the voters and like, yo, if I get the most votes and get people support, that bypasses any of that BS that the those above me are doing. And that's what it should be. It should be about, a strong candidate. What strong should mean is that you have millions of voters that love you. Strong should not mean, they could raise a lot of money from big donors and big corporations, and they know how to, that's literally saying, they're good at taking bribes and making a deal to get bribes and legal bribes. And then, it's going to affect how they do their policies. It always does. So that's what we mean by up-down politics. So let's do it. We'll do a refresh, and then we'll go to the next one. Got this.
Absolutely. So, if you're viewing us, we are live right now on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. And this is FiNC Tank Live. And here we talk about our digital politics lens, what Travis just talked about, seeing who is an upserving versus a downserving candidate or reform, and not just left versus right. And that helps us unpack what is actually happening in politics. So FiNC is your civic utility, and we are plugging citizens and trusted voices into one shared hub to start building digital democracy, which will be the future home of American politics. So to get involved, to make sure that you don't miss when our digital politics hub drops, go to futureis.org and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll get alerts when the hub launches, and you will be able to be one of the first citizens to help shape what comes next. I will pass it back to Travis to get into FiNC's actual next stage, which is we're very excited about coordination and how we bring you guys into the conversation.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, so like Liz just said, so this is the stage that begins in January. And so this is what the digital politics hub launched. January should be January 5th. And so this is like a major milestone that we're going. We finally finished our language and like how to explain everything, our infrastructure, our team, our processes, all the back end stuff to have the right structuring to execute everything. So the next step is coordination. So the big distinction between us and what other organizations are trying to do, like again, there are several companies trying to build some form of a digital democracy. There's different civic technologies that help, do polling of where citizens stand on issues. Our good allies, America's Main Street Party, is creating a people's primary system where Americans choose the candidate in the primary, like from scratch, basically, and no intervention from the party. So there's all these different ways. Organizations that have these wonderful newer ideas, outside the box ideas, but what we want to do is be the connective tissue, because the problem is they're all fragmented. There's wonderful ideas, but it's hard to, like, how do you bridge the gaps? There's egos involved. People want their share of money and all this. So we want to be kind of the liaison between the technologies. We're not actually going to build the tech ourselves. That's the big thing, because it already exists. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel. Like, we do have some clear features that we want, like politician report cards that bring transparency. But our number one goal is that we want to make sure that it's citizens that are in control of it, that you're going to have ownership of this technology. You're going to forever have oversight of the technology. There's pure transparency. We want Americans to be involved from day one throughout, to make sure that that all this stuff that gets built is in your hands and not the gatekeepers or big tech. Then we're going to be in the same issue that we're in today. So, in the nutshell, we're building like the umbrella infrastructure where all this tech can live. There'll be also movements involved, influencers, podcasters, underdog grassroots candidates, everyone that's not part of the status quo, that truly wants a more representative democracy, can join in on this. And so we want to be the connector, the communication piece of it, and we're here to get the buy-in from the American people. We're here to fight for your needs and your wants, and say, hey, wait, America wouldn't want you to go that direction or do this kind of a, go this way with technology, or give it in the hands of XYZ person. So we're here to like constantly check the temperature of the room. Like, where does America want? What are your priorities? What do you, how do we make this the most trustworthy system like kind of ever designed? So that's where we stand. We're here to between like the people, the culture, the current zeitgeist of today, and then the tech people, and we want to bridge that and make sure that things go in a way that's to your benefit and not to a chosen few, or to give somebody profits, or inflate somebody's ego. So with that all said, that's why this next stage is about the coordination. So it starts with the Digital Politics Hub, again, launching January 5th. And what that is it allows you to, it starts allowing you'll be able to put your name in. You also could add your name to be a future owner. Digital democracy, the goal is to make it actually citizen owned, where you literally have an ownership stake. Every American would have the equal ownership stake. I'm not gonna, like, FiNC's not gonna own it. Party gatekeeper's not gonna own it. Big tech. It's like every American can opt in, get an equal ownership stake. Eventually you have to flesh that out. But the so the coordination piece is about, who wants to be involved. We want to get your feedback. There's going to be surveys and polling to ask you what priorities you care about, what we should focus on. Would you trust this technology, that kind of trust technology? It's not even all tech. So people that are not tech savvy, does not matter whatsoever. There's a lot of features of this new platform, but the idea is to really grow the network. We basically systematized word of mouth. So there'll be micro actions you can take that spreads the word. It could get help you, like, tell a friend, tell your family. If you have a other trusted voices you care about, like a candidate you really like, a podcaster you like, journalists, movements. There'll be ways that you help us get in touch with those movements and get them on board. We want to have them. We want all the movements to have a seat at the table, different tech at the table. Everyone, like, long as it's like, for a altruistic overall goal. We want different movements and pretty much all nonprofits at the table. So we want to do that with you, build the trust, who trusts this organization, who trusts that organization, things like that, and get your feedback in general. So again, it's all about coordination. Just to zoom in here, so part of it's about co-creating the next generation of politics. So if you are tech savvy, there'll be like different tech stuff that you'd be able to answer and like help shape how the technology works. But really, mostly, it's not even about the technology. It's again, we're the people side, the human side, the movement side. We're not just a movement; we're movement of movements. We want to have different movements interconnected under this umbrella of having a better democracy, and it includes amplifying their voices, as long as they're grassroots and legitimate. But so we want you to help co-create the next stage of politics, and that's more of like, do we envision how many people want multiple parties? We want no parties eventually. Do we want like a 4-quadrant identifying way of doing things? And what priorities are important right now? Like, just different ways that are still nonpartisan, but getting like a feel of like how the structure should evolve and what we should prioritize. Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, so Travis said it in a great way. This is about networking. But in addition, and also like you said, it's about the human side of building this this hub and this platform. So if you have ever been someone who says, "Gosh, I wish I could help democracy. I wish I could help out some way. What can I do?" This is for you. If you've ever thought, at 3 a.m., gosh, I think that would be a really cool technology or idea to implement into our political system. This is for you. If you love or volunteer or have started an organization or movement that you think would be so awesome to have a voice at the table, gosh, let us know. This is for you. This is for anyone, like we said in the beginning. If you are not currently benefiting from the rigged system of democracy and politics, then this is for you. So this is your opportunity to help spread the word about it, but also give us your 2 cents. You were at the table along with the politicians, the reform movements, the media, and FiNC. Pull up a chair, sign up for the newsletter. This is your shot. This is your chance to have an equal stake and push this needle forward of progress.
Yeah, cool. So first is, one of the 3 big elements of the coordination. One is this co-creating. We're gonna again ask you about priorities. Start working out like what should the shared rules be. We want to build a fair system, a level playing field with with different movements and other nonprofits, journalists, the candidates. Just building a thing where it's like, you can't buy a lift in presence. You have to earn it with the American people. You have to prove to your district and the people that you're worthy of their trust and support and their vote. Right now it's just like they assume like, oh, well, you're a Democrat, you're going to vote for me because you're a Democrat, or you're a Republican, you're going to vote for me. And like, no, not anymore. Like, you have to earn it. You can't just, oh, well, I'm the lesser evil, vote for me. I'm still not going to fulfill like any of my promises, but I'll do a little less worse than the other guy. Like, no, not working out. So talked enough of that one, the co-creation. The other part is turning scattered energy into a focused push for a new system. So that's really just helping align goals. Where do we align? Where do we differ? There's different things that we'll get into. We're not going to get into the details right now, but like we have things called clusters where there are separation of stances. We'll have that structured and allow for civil debates, kind of build a system that's not siloing. Like, if people are in a cluster for like wanting a public option in healthcare, that's fine, but they'll also hear from other sides, somebody that's more that wants only private or somebody that wants universal healthcare. There'll be a mix of hearing the points of other sides, to say, like, make sure you do understand why, like, is your choice the best choice, or does somebody have a better point that might make you change your mind at some point? So that'll be with every kind of policy issue. There'll be, like, structured ways to debate and see outside your own silo. So things like that, and just shared updates, tools, different ways to put people on a list, like organizations on a list. Like right away when this launches, you'll see a list of all the podcasts that we've been on and are talking about. Like they both like our concept, but also they generally try to give a more truthful outlook on what's going on. Some are Republicans, some are Democrats, some are nonpartisan. We'll that distinction will be clear on there. But the biggest point of them is that they understand the problem of these, like the rigged system and gatekeeping, and that they'll give their own flavor of what's going on. And ultimately, it's just really about matching people and groups around the goals that they share. So you go to podcasts, yes, they're all going to be about representation, but if you're a Republican, you might want to find more Republicans, or libertarian, here's a libertarian podcast. So stuff like that, podcast, journalists, it's gonna grow. It's gonna start small, but we're ready to scale it up. And then the last part of this coordination stage is the unleashing your digital voice. And that's we've been hearing a lot also now that, like, some people want to make a difference over social media, and that's totally the way to go, but we have to figure out the right way to do that. And I don't think society has really landed on that, because right now we're just screaming matches on social media, like no one's really listening. No one goes into an argument and then leaves with a different point of view. Maybe, I can't say never ever, but it's kind of statistically proven. It's actually a fact that people tend to go into it when they leave a debate. They actually are more adamant about their side than actually hearing the other side. So we're not worrying about that. We want to make it cleaner. We wanted to make it feel like, you could spend like 5 minutes before bed, do a couple shares, couple likes, couple spread the words on social media, and feel like you move the needle a little bit forward in the right direction. And so the hub is going to have that as well. And there's going to be growing new ways of using social media a little bit differently than normal, to just amplify the right voices. There's certain candidates that you trust and you really like them, help amplify them. Journalists you trust, help amplify them. You amplify who you want, you don't amplify who you don't agree with. It's that simple. No one's going to push you one way or the other. But long story short, it's about using your digital voice, and really using it wisely, so you're not like needing to spend hours and hours to do all these debates, but spend a few minutes, but you're doing the right minutes that really feels good to yourself, and feels like you made that impact. Because I've been hearing a lot that people want to make more of a difference, but they don't know where to begin, and like there's all these people claiming solutions and this and that, and who to trust. It's just such a mess. So like this is basically a trust network that we're trying to build. Who can you trust? And then there might be a voice that's trustworthy, but you don't agree with them. That's fine too. But we want to build a network of trusted voices, and then you decide who do you agree with within those trusts. Because it's different. There's one thing that somebody is honest and authentic. They could still be wrong or not not compatible with what you agree with. So that's totally fine, and we're going to help simplify that process. So yeah, that's kind of the nutshell of this section.
Awesome. And before I reset the room, Travis, I love what you just said. Rather than 5 minutes, 10 minutes here and there for kind of a scattered effort, what we're talking about here is those same 5-10 minutes, but pushing the needle forward on things that you believe, things that you deem worthy, and things that actually move the needle forward, right? You can see how many shares, how many likes. So using the digital world in a more effective manner and respecting your time and effort is a big part of what we're building here. So if you are tuning in, we are live right now on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This is FiNC Tank Live, and we use the digital politics lens. So rather than just left versus right, we identify power versus up versus down. And this unpacks what's actually happening in politics today. FiNC, Future is Now Coalition, is your civic utility where we plug citizens and trusted voices into one shared hub where we start building digital democracy. And digital democracy is the future home of America's politics. So to get involved, go to futureis.org, our homepage, and join the newsletter. That way you'll be alerted when our digital politics hub drops, and be one of the first people to help shape what comes next. And I'll pass it back to Travis to go into our, we talked about, what we've been doing behind the scenes, how we're ready to build something with America, get your voice, your input, your trusted perspective on things. And here is the kind of the crowning jewel, but first we need digital politics. But this, what Travis is going to go into is the future of democracy, where it lives, what it is, and how it actually bypasses the rigged nature of today's broken system.
Cool. So yeah, I just had to get my dog. Sorry, I am back. So this is the creme de la creme. This is where it's all going to be working towards digital democracy itself. So it's a process, like we're saying, that the most important thing is the coordination first. Who's involved? Is there oversight? We want to make sure there's enough citizens to be part of the decision making. So it's not like one or a handful of organizations making all these decisions without your approval on it. We truly, truly mean what we say. We want you to be involved. We want your feedback. We want you to have say in this, and we want it to be built democratically and with massive amount of support. So it's all about, so first is this, all the coordination, growing this people power, growing the resources and the organizations that are ready to move this forward. And then that's when we can execute this next step of the end game of launch. And even that, digital democracy will be forever growing. There's so many features that this can be. It's basically like a civic internet. Like, there's going to be an ongoing build out of different tools and information and ways for you to get the political information you need. Some of it is going to be showcasing like all politicians equally, creating permanent report cards to showcase. We want to, so you put in your zip code and it shows you like who's running in each district, what are their promises, but do they deliver on their promises once they're in office? Who's funding their campaign? What industry is that money coming from? Is it a conflict of interest to something that you really care about? It'll have like democracy score, like one number that kind of indicates like how honest they are, how like fulfilling, how much they fulfill their promises, or how much they represent their district. So tons of that's the main tools that we want to push in the forefront. And then there's going to be like tons of other features based on whatever America wants and these organizations are building. But that's our like kind of our flagship service feature that we want to start with. So if we play our cards right and we get the people support we need, starting in January, ideally we will actually even have some of those report cards ready for the midterm elections. So that's the ideal goal. It's getting, it's a tight goal for sure. And it really just depends on how quickly this grows. But we're already very, very well set for what January is going to be. So if that really goes into fruition the way we were planning and hoping, then we could see this be a reality. But even if not, then there's then it'll still develop before definitely before the general election, if not the I don't know what they call it, after the midterm, the odd one. But anyway, so once we get into digital democracy as a whole, like we said, like the biggest thing is about like transparency and accountability. That's like one of the core pieces that we want this to be about. So like I just said with the politician report cards, really the goal is both to help matchmake of like who best represents you, but then also looking at their holding them accountable, that once they're in office, are they going to fulfill that? And so that is a huge fundamental to the features that we want on this digital democracy. The other one is just having an ongoing system of citizen input and shared decision making. To us, like how wonderful would it be? Like, it's not, this isn't going to happen overnight, and it'll happen in certain areas faster than others. But imagine if, like, somebody's like, all right, I'm going to run for the House of Representative in my district. And instead of saying, oh, well, I'm a Republican, so here's my policies, or I'm a Democrat so here's my policies. Imagine they actually go, hey, let me look at the polling of my district. What does my district want? This is where they stand on healthcare. This is where they stand on immigration. This is how they have some rural concerns that need to be addressed, and this, and so on and so forth. So let me shape my policies around what my district actually wants. That is called representation. So we want it to, again, it won't happen overnight, but it'll be kind of a gradual shift. Even if somebody's like, yeah, they have to, like, early on, they might have to generally follow their party, but then, like, oh, well, this one issue, I really see my district really cares about this one issue, so I'm gonna have to really push against the party leaders on this one issue. So it'll immediately start shifting how they look at policies and where their stances are, and all that kind of stuff. So that's a huge part. So right away, like, the hub that we're launching in January already is going to have, like, polling mechanisms, but this is going to take it to a much higher level, more secure, like district verification. Are you in the right district when you're being represented, and this and that. And then also, like, more scaled once digital democracy is created. So that's one piece. Another is a home for independent journalists. So just like a matchmaker to find the candidates that you feel aligned with, we want you to be able to find journalists that you align with. Like, as we've been saying, you can't trust the mainstream media these days. They're too embedded with a very specific interest. And so the solution right now is independent journalists. And you see them all the time on like YouTube, Substack, all the social media platforms. And there's a lot of problems that we won't go into the details there, but they have a lot of issues where they get demonetized. The algorithm purposely shrink their voice. They're a threat to the establishment, so the establishment's going to make their voice as quiet as they possibly can. If they shut it out completely, it'd be big enough for America to get mad. So they know there's a line they can't necessarily cross, but they could, just demonetizing an organization when, like, their biggest income is viewers and getting the ad revenue, like, that's basically censoring them. So we want to build a home where independent journalists have their voice. Also, there'll be accountability on it where you could actually rate them and engage, like, are they being honest? Are they, pushing an agenda? Are they partisan? There'll be, like, different ways to hold them accountable right into the system. So that's going to be a huge part of this, because, like, not everyone sees it this way, but media is such a huge part of the political machine. And right now it's controlled by the establishment, and we want to build a decentralized, democratized, instead of 6 companies that have all take over the media, we want, like, thousands of journalists, and you'll pick the ones that you like, and they align with you in the way you see the world and see politics. And we just want to connect you to trusted voices, no matter where your political belief aligns. So that it's going to be a huge part of this of this platform. And then let's see, then the other part, like, kind of one of the biggest, second to the or next to the politician report card, is evolving the leader selection process. And so that's where we're talking about, like, showcasing all candidates equally, allowing third parties to have a voice, independence, and then also those grassroots candidates within the two parties. We're not saying it has to be third parties. We're gonna have infrastructure that allows America to go wherever they want to go. And building, and the funny thing too is the process of showcasing all politicians equally, it's actually cheaper, clearer, and more efficient than the current system that we live in today. So people are like, oh, well, this is, like, a huge thing. How are you going to take on? How are you going to afford it? It's like, the current system costs $12 billion a year right now to showcase our politicians one at a time. Imagine digitizing one platform. Every American knows, go to one place. You see all your choices right there. There'll be all these tools to select which one is right for you. It's not no one else but yourself to decide who you like. and just streamline the process, make it easier for you, see the electability. Are they popular? Do they have a chance to actually win the election? That's a huge factor in people's decision making. And with the ultimate goal, better choices and better outcomes. Because like we should have more choices. It's not good that they cut choices out on both sides, through the primaries and all. Like, to have two choices in an election, that is not democracy. So we're bypassing the current system to build a citizen-owned, decentralized, democratized system in its place. Like, I've been on a bunch of podcasts, and they're like, how do you, right now a candidate has to appeal to their party because they give them the infrastructure, they give them a voice, and they make, they help them win the election. How are you going to replace that? Well, we're going to do it by having a shared system that every third party, every independent candidate, every even grassroots Democrat, grassroots Republican, all of them have a new shared system that they can use to have a voice on. So they don't have to they don't have to listen to us. They have to just play the game fairly is really the only rule. But they could stand wherever they stand on policies and everything, as long as they're being honest with the people and they're going to fulfill their promises. They will have a new system. So it's like right now there's a Democrat machine, a Republican machine, and now there's going to be a citizen political machine to offset that. So it's not like, oh, well, you can't get one party to win. Yeah, but if all the third parties are using the same infrastructure, along with independents using the same infrastructure, even good, like the more representative Democrats or Republicans using the same infrastructure. No, now you have a system, whether they're a third party or in the two parties. And so I could go on and on about how that works, but that's such a key piece to the success of how this works. And then the last piece here is really just modernizing and simplifying civic participation, just making it easier. No citizen wants politics to be a second job. You want to be able to spend a couple, maybe an hour a week, maybe less, to move the needle a little bit. And when it's time to vote, you don't want to spend hours and hours researching or doing anything complicated. Let's streamline the process. Let's put all the information right at your fingertips. Just make it easier to participate. So like finding journalists will be easier, finding candidates are easier, finding movements you want to support would be easier, all that stuff. Just make it simple, like the digital age. It's easy as hell you could order groceries on your phone, but you can't look up a candidate in any kind of standardized way. It's absolutely ridiculous. So this is really, digital democracy is the future home for U.S. democracy. And people are saying it's an inevitability, but no one's cracked the right model for it. And we truly believe we have the right model. And part of why it's the right model is because we're incorporating others. We're not saying we have all the answers. We're saying we have a system that'll plug in other people's answers and let everyone, have a chance to bring an answer to the table.
Great. And going through this graphic, I hope everyone can see the beauty of, there's so much middlemen. There's so many middlemen in democracy. And as we all know, the more middlemen, it costs more, and it does not provide the product or the result that you want. So if we remove the need for big money, the more chaotic inability to really have a one central location for quality journalists, politicians, and movements, it provides a real product and a real service to the American people to not only have their voice heard, but to utilize that voice in a much more effective system. So, well, thank you guys for tuning in today. We are taking a week off because in a week from now is Christmas Eve, and be with your families or whatever. But we will be back the 31st, I believe, Travis, Christmas or New Year's Eve. I guess we didn't really talk about that, but I'm okay to be there if you are.
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. So we will take next week off for Christmas Eve, but join us again for Think Tank Live, December 31st, New Year's Eve, and that'll be at
2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're looking forward to that. And just a friendly reminder, go to our website, futurist.org, sign up for the newsletter, and be one of the first to log into the Digital Politics Hub and be on the alert for opportunities to build what comes next in American politics. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep. So yeah, futureis.org/join if you want to go directly to the newsletter. And yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Cool. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.